All right, welcome everybody. We're very excited to talk to you today about Financial Aid 101. We also consider this the ABCs of college financial aid. Thank you so much for joining us. In case you are not familiar with Zoom, though we know many of you are, just a couple of quick logistics. First, we will record this webinar and it will be available on our YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com/moneythink. Second, please use the chat to send us any messages and post any questions in the Q&A. All right, so I just want to again welcome you all. Thank you for joining us. Today we welcome John Tamrat, College Financial Coach and Partnership Coordinator for Moneysync. And my name is Meredith Curry. You can call me Mare. I'm the Director of Education Partnerships for Moneysync. And at Moneysync, we believe that students make college plans a reality when they understand how to manage their financial aid. And that's why we want to share with students and families how college success planning begins with college affordability planning. So a little bit more about Moneysync. Moneysync is an innovative nonprofit that helps students seeking financial aid achieve college success by supporting financial decision-making. Moneysync harnesses the power of people and technology to bring transparency to college costs so that all students are equipped to invest in their futures. We do this by developing tools like Decided to empower students and families to invest in the future by building technology that clarifies college finances. A little bit more on that later. We also partner with local nonprofits, scholarship organizations, and schools school districts to bring financial aid planning to students, families, and educators in a thoughtful, strategic, and intentional way. I'd now like to ask my colleague John to start to introduce us to the really important meat of today's webinar, which are the ABCs of college financial aid.
Thanks, Mary. I'd like to quickly introduce us to the financial aid concepts and then tell you about how our web app-based Decided can help you make sense of all this throughout the year. So here's what you will need to know. First and foremost is understanding what cost of attendance really means. So cost of attendance, which is also referred to as COA on some websites and documents, includes two different types of costs that we need to be aware of. The first one is the direct cost. This includes such things as tuition, potential room and board, and fees. Health services may be required, but you can get them waived if you have health insurance already. And the second cost is your indirect costs. These are costs that are not directly billed by your college. So that's why they're called unbilled costs. This includes things such as travel, transit, books and supplies, and personal expenses that may come out throughout the year as a college student that you need to be aware of and be prepared to pay out of your own pocket. It's also important that you know that there are different types of financial aid you'll need to explore, compare, and make decisions about. First and foremost are the grants and scholarships. They're both examples of gift aid. And this is the money you don't have to pay back, so you really want to make sure you maximize the amount of money you get in gift aid. The next one would be loans and federal work study. These are not gift aid. Loans you will have to pay back and potentially with interest, which means you'll owe more than you borrowed. Work study is something that your college will need to offer you, and you don't get your work study job until you're in college. So you can't account for it. It's not guaranteed in that sense as well. It's something that needs to be earned and applied for. So it's very important as you learn more about financial aid that you're clear about which aid is free, that you don't have to pay back, because that is the one that you want to get the most of. Then there are the loans which you want to keep low or at least be sure to shop for so that you owe at the end the least amount possible. And with work study, again, you'll need to follow up during college to get a job, and then you'll want to be careful about not taking on too many hours of work while you're in college. Okay, so now we'll get to the next part. So when it comes to college affordability, financial aid is the most important task for you to complete right now. And with that, the biggest application you can fill out to get this done is the FAFSA application. So if you've not gotten started on this process, you can take the first step by creating an FSA ID. Both student and parent will need to have an FSA ID, which you will use to access, sign, and submit your FAFSA application. To apply, you'll need to provide your name, date of birth, social security number. If a parent does not have a social security number, they will, instead of applying for a PIN, they will actually just sign it, hand sign it, and then mail the document in. The FAFSA application officially opened on October 1st, so you can start completing the FAFSA application if you haven't already started on that. You as a student, you will need to help, parents and students will need to work together to help complete the FAFSA application, especially when it comes to the parent section, where they will need to enter their prior year tax information. Thankfully, the application has been getting streamlined to make it easier to complete, with many families and students having the option to use the IRS data retrieval tool. The IRS data retrieval tool allows students and parents who have filled out a U.S. tax return within the IRS to access those return information needed to complete on your FAFSA form. So if you are eligible, we highly recommend that you use this tool for several reasons. One, it's the easiest way to provide your tax information. Two, it's the best way of ensuring that your FAFSA form has accurate tax information. And three, you won't need to provide potentially a copy of your or your parents' tax return to your college if this is done through a streamlined process like this. And again, if you are using the IRS data transfer to transfer all your tax information, the information won't display on your FAFSA form. For your protection, the answer to each question instead will be replaced with the quotation that says transferred from IRS. All right, so although you need to complete the FAFSA application to be eligible for financial aid from the federal or the state government, as well as any aid given to you from the college itself, not everyone's eligible or can complete the FAFSA application. So if you are a U.S. citizen, permanent resident, refugee, or part of a humanitarian status group, or under any of the criteria we've listed on the slide right now, you should apply because you are eligible to complete the FAFSA application. So we highly recommend that you do so. If you're an undocumented student, you should not apply to that FAFSA application. For undocumented California students, you can instead look to apply and complete the DREAM Act application, which will be very similar setup to the way the FAFSA is. If you are unable to apply for the FAFSA application, make sure to do the following as well. Check to see if you can qualify for in-state tuition. Reach out to the colleges to find out. Some colleges often even have their own special funds available for undocumented students. To apply for these financial aid, you may need to fill out the SSC financial aid profile or the college's own form. Reach out to them directly to the financial aid to find out more so you can take the next steps. Now, if you are getting ready to start your FAFSA application, make sure you gather the following documents so you can complete the application in one go. You can also save your progress and come back to the FAFSA as needed. You will need the following information shown on the PowerPoint. Reminder, if you are able to use the IRS data retrieval tool, this will assist you in transferring the most of the federal tax information asked for you on the form. And again, if you do decide to do that, as a protection to you, those answers will not be displayed. Instead, it will just say transfer from FAFSA. So when filling out the FAFSA form, one of the common trip-ups is identifying who the student's FAFSA parent is. Here is a diagram to help you identify who you're willing to list on the FAFSA as your parent. So if both parents are married to each other, then you'll need to report both of your parents' information. If both parents live together in the same household, even if they're not married, you will still be required to report both the parents' information. If you live with one parent more than the other parent over the past 12 months, report that parent's information on the FAFSA, regardless of who claims you as a student as a dependent on any tax form. If a parent you receive most of the support from has remarried, then you'll need to report their information as well for your step-parent in the FAFSA form. Once you've completed and electronically signed and submitted the FAFSA form with your FSA ID PIN, reminder, both students and parents will need to sign and submit that. Once that is completed, keep a lookout for a student aid report, also called the STAR, that will be sent to your student email account that you use to finalize your FAFSA form and apply for. So you can also go back to the FAFSA to view it. If you're not getting your email, or maybe you're thinking that you don't have access to it, you can double check by actually logging back into your FAFSA account and verifying if your STAR is ready for you to view or not. This is a report that contains the estimated family contribution that will also determine the amount of financial aid the student will be eligible for. If you are selected for verification, make sure to read the required next steps you may need to complete so you can receive your STAR and that can be finalized. And we want to get this done as soon as possible, because the longer you take, the longer your financial aid will be held up, which means you won't be able to recognize which schools are going to be affordable options for you, how much each school is offering you. So it is critical to do this and be aware about any verification documents that you may have to enter. All right, so we've just covered the financial aid terms about costs and types of aid, and we've touched on the application. That's because you are here on the college journey right now, applying to colleges and completing your financial aid. After you've completed these applications, you'll wait for your college acceptance letters and financial aid award letters to come in the mail and through your email student portals. Let me hand it back to Merritt now to continue on with the presentation.
Thank you so much, John. And thank you so much for that fantastic overview of all the various terminology that we need to know, from the costs related to college, as well as the types of financial aid. And we'll be referring to those terms again as we go through to this webinar. So as John mentioned, where we're at right now in this process is the blue bubble, and we're here to support you in getting through the rest of your journey. Once you complete the applications, you want to make sure you have all of your award letters for all of the colleges that accept you, so that you can actually compare your award packages based on what we discussed earlier, how much in gift aid you're getting, which are grants and scholarships. You want to look at that first before you look at the loans and work study. We encourage you to take the time and compare your options before you enroll. Once you choose to your college, then you'll need to accept or decline your financial aid, and then you'll have the chance to focus on this last piece of the puzzle in the journey of getting ready for college, which includes collecting your supplies, completing orientation, and registering for classes. So for the rest of this presentation, what we really want to talk to you about is the second step, when your college acceptance and award letters arrive. This step happens to be very complex and challenges not just students like you and your families, but also educators. This step of collecting our award letters and actually reviewing them and comparing them. So why is this complicated? Why do students and families struggle every year to talk about financial aid and college affordability? Well, because the nation's 1.6 trillion, which I believe is getting closer and closer to 1.7 trillion in student debt, is fueled by confusing and unclear pricing and college costs. A new report on student debt in the class of 2019 shares that more than 6 in 10 college seniors who graduated from public and private nonprofit colleges last year in 2019 had student loan debt, and they owed an average of just over $28,000. So the point here is we want to make sure that you have a plan. And if you're going to take on debt, we want to make sure you have a plan for that debt and that you understand the debt you're taking on and that it's reasonable for you. Now, one way to make sure you understand your award packages is to be able to understand the information in your award letters, but the financial aid award letters are a big part of the problem. As you can see here on the slide, over 140 unique terms are used just to describe loans. What this means for you is that sometimes loans are being presented to you and you don't know that that's what it is. And remember earlier, as John shared, it's really important to know the difference between the different types of aid. We've talked about gift aid, and we've talked about aid you have to pay back, and loans fits in that second category of aid that you will have to pay back. We also see that 70% of letters group all of the aid together, and they don't explain the differences between grants and scholarships or loans and work study. And this is especially problematic because since, as John also mentioned earlier, some of that money is available before you start school to help you pay for expenses right away, while some of that money, like money you earn through work study, you won't actually get until later to apply to expenses. So it's really important that when we review our financial aid award letters, that we can tell the difference between the types of aid. Now, this problem of unclear award letters that are actually different from college to college has led students and families like you to navigate this process with limited guidance and often poor, limited information on your own. The information that's really hard to find out is how affordable this college is for you and your family. And again, this topic of affordability is really important, especially because we know that 70% of college dropouts leave school due to pressing financial concerns. That then means that students are taking on debt and not leaving with a degree. So why don't we start by really understanding what is an affordable college? Here at Moneysync, we consider a college to be affordable if the gap is less than $7,500. And you'll see here in this handy dandy chart that we've tried to show you using color coding as well as a way to really differentiate between the three levels. So we're going to explain affordable, somewhat affordable, and not affordable. And again, starting with affordable, the gap is less than $7,500. This means that a student will be able to cover this reasonably with a combination of loans, work, and family support. Family support can look like savings. It can look like you earning money in the summer before school. It could look like scholarships that you're able to apply for as well. A student will be able to do this by taking no more than maybe $5,500 in loans, which is about what you would max out if you accepted federal subsidized and unsubsidized loans, and or working 10 or less hours during the school year. Um, Guess what though? Research shows that approximately 30% of award letters don't include the costs. Those costs are what John showed you earlier in the slide, where the costs were on one side and the types of aid were on the other. When you're missing that information on the left side, the actual costs, it is very hard to calculate an accurate gap. So you wouldn't know if your gap is $7,500 or not. What good is it to know then if you're getting $20,000 in grants if you don't know that your gap is maybe $40,000? So again, the issue is the clarity around financial aid award letters, right? We want to make sure that you can calculate this gap so that you can determine affordability. So what's the next step up from affordable? The next step up is somewhat affordable. And we consider a school with a gap between $7,500 and $11,500 to be somewhat affordable. These schools can still be a good option for you. It may mean needing more support from family, work, or more hours working, like 15 to 20 hours. It could also mean taking out more in loans than the recommended $5,500 that year. So just important for you to really consider and weigh your options. And then the last step up from somewhat affordable would be unaffordable. And we consider schools with a gap over $11,500 to be unaffordable. And that's because students are likely to struggle to cover the college bill, even if they have those three things: family support, are working, and are taking out more than the recommended amount in loans. Just a note here, and John will go over this in a little bit more detail. But when we talk about loans, it's important to note that there is an amount that you can get to where it is fairly risky for you and your family to take out that amount of debt. Taking large amount of loans is risky due to having high monthly payments when it's time to pay them back, which could mean you're risking defaulting on those loans in the future, meaning you're not able to pay them back. And there are other issues and challenges you'll have to deal with at that point. And then again, in terms of working, we mentioned that if a college is affordable, hopefully you're working 10 or less hours a week. Anything more than 20 hours a week, then you're potentially struggling to meet all of your other priorities around academic success and everything else. Working over 20 hours could be detrimental, so just something to consider. So that is really how we look at affordability and how we would encourage you to start. Again, this is the reason why you collect your award letters, so you can review and compare them and calculate to figure out what your gap is, to figure out if it's affordable, somewhat affordable, and not affordable. Now that could be really challenging, right? To do all of this math, to find all that information. We just said finding the right information in your award letters can be difficult. So, now that we know how important it is to look at affordability of colleges, I'm sure you're asking yourself, then how do I pay for college? And how do I make sure that I really understand my expenses and are taking advantage of all of the opportunities out there to pay for your college expenses? Well, that is where Decided comes in, and we're super excited to tell you more about it today. Decided is a free tool it just released, and you can use it to plan for college. It helps you understand if the financial aid award packages offered to you are affordable or not. Once you know how affordable the college is, then you should also consider whether or not it meets other fit factors that John will talk to us about, like graduation rate or possible earnings. And with that, I'd like to take it back to John to walk us through Decided.
Thanks, Mer. So as we stated at the beginning of this webinar, our mission at Moneysync is to bring transparency to college costs so that all students are equipped to invest in their future. So our goal essentially is to put you, the student, in the driver's seat by equipping you with all the information you need to make a strong, well-informed decision. Decided encompasses our 10+ years of expertise in supporting students and families with financial literacy and college access work. We've combined our expertise with student-centered design to inform the creation and development of Decided, resulting in a tool that is student and family-centered and really tries to take the guesswork out of college affordability. Currently, many students are making ill-informed enrollment decisions based on very confusing data that we just went over with, right? Many advisors don't have the capacity to support all their students in understanding their award letters. Even for the college access orgs that are out there supporting students with this, like some of those that you are working with or know of, it's very laborious, and this support is not readily accessible to many more students. DecideEd then is reshaping the way you as a student can go about making your enrollment decision with the access to all the information needed in one place, therefore removing some of the stress that goes into this, as well as the uncertainty when you're making enrollment decisions that could impact you not only for the year ahead, but for your future ahead. Again, so we take the guesswork out of affordability by using our optical character recognition tool, OCR. Some of you might recognize that as far as if you have parents who take a screenshot of their paycheck and then it downloads all their data information to their bank. We essentially pull that tool along with our machine learning to transform the very confusing, complex award letters that students receive from colleges into very clear and consistent formats that's easy for them to read and understand. Our objective, again, is to help students make a holistic college enrollment decision that can be informed by accurate understanding of their cost of college. Because in order to increase the chance of student obtaining a bachelor's degree with a sustainable amount of debt, this can be attained by our support to students by helping them quickly and accurately understand their award letters. Secondly, helping them compare the affordability of their options so they're enabled to make well-informed decisions. And thirdly, know the full cost of the college and have a plan to pay for it going into it. So one of the most confusing parts of the award letters that students and families have stated over and over is understanding what is the actual bill. So essentially, what should they expect to be responsible for looking ahead, right? So let's walk through the use of the tool using a student. Let's call that student Alex. Once Alex uploads an award letter to a college on DecideEd, she'll be able to clearly see and understand what costs she'll be responsible for. DecideEd will automate the calculation of all the free money, so the gift aid that we talked about previously, on her award letter. So any grants and scholarships will be applied to the cost of attendance at that school. Once that calculation is done, Alex will be able to see what is left over to cover under college bills. So that means the direct bill cost that needs to be paid to the college for expenses that are due, right? And then for any expenses not due to the college that will be reflected under life budget, this will be for expenses like personal expenses, travel, books, and supplies. These are the things that maybe the student doesn't pay directly to the college themselves, but it is something they need to be aware of and plan for so that they don't get tripped up by these costs later down the road. Again, DecideEd demystifies a process that's cryptic by design. After Alex uploads her award letter to the app, she can immediately compare school options. The most pressing information will be up front and center, like basic affordability, as well as with colors and thumbs up, down markers to help the student make sense of all these costs and all this information. As Alex scrolls down, she can access even more other relevant information about the school, like the graduation rates, that diversity, the campus environment, or average salaries after graduation to really get a sense of belonging of, does that match my needs? Does it help me fulfill my future aspirations? That's really the holistic decision we want to enable students to have. All right, so research shows that 70% of college dropouts are linked to pressing financial concerns. A major factor to this number is due to students facing high unexpected or unplanned financial costs that end up leading to students taking on more debt, so more loans that they weren't expecting or planning for, or needing to work way too many hours while in college to help cover these costs. So to combat and mitigate unexpected and unplanned financial costs, DecideEd provides further supplementary support through our guides and recommendations on financial planning and how to effectively leverage money from self, money from family, money from work study, and or student loans as part of your full financial plan to cover the cost for the upcoming year. So if Alex or her parents have a question or want to learn more, they can click on these helpful guides to help them guide them through these decision factors, right? And to kind of get a foresight of all these unexpected things that may come up so they are well prepared to dealing with them. All right. As many of you start your college search and financial aid planning journey, it's important to know how you can use outside scholarships, student loans, and work study as part of your planning for college. Now, some of you are already working hard to apply to many scholarships, which is great. Here are some tips to consider about outside scholarships. Unless you've won a scholarship, Do not count that money when making an enrollment decision or making a financial plan. You don't want to rely on a fund that's not guaranteed to you. If you are awarded a scholarship and the money will be given directly to you, then we recommend not reporting that to the college and instead treating it as cash to pay for your school expenses. If you've been awarded a scholarship and it will be paid directly to the college you enroll at, we recommend checking to see what your college scholarship displacement policy is or reaching out to the financial aid office to find out more. Financial aid displacement is used to describe a situation where a student has received an award letter from a college and then tells the college they have also won a private scholarship. Some colleges may respond to this by reducing the amount in grants awarded to the student by the size of the new scholarship. That's a displacement. So for example, Alex won a $5,000 private scholarship, but because of displacement, her grants might have gotten reduced by $5,000. Note that colleges can't subtract from the federal Pell Grant. That will remain intact regardless of however many scholarship winnings you acquire. Now you might say, well, what's the point of applying to scholarships then? Well, the good news is that 80% of schools won't cut into the students' grants for receiving outside scholarships. So pursuing them, scholarship money can still be very helpful in reducing the need to borrow more in student loans or needing to work more hours while in school. If your college practices scholarship displacement, we also recommend talking to financial aid office to see if they can potentially reduce the loans offered to you instead of the grants, since you don't have to pay back grants. So really emphasizing that, do whatever you can to maximize your free aid money and minimize your loans or other reliance on non-guaranteed money or money that you have to pay back. All right, so for the majority of students, going to college may also mean needing to take out loans, especially for Pell eligible or low income students who will need to consider loan as an option. So it's important to know what source of loans to consider. Federal subsidized and unsubsidized loans are a great and good option because they offer competitive interest rates, favorable terms, repayment options, and potential loan forgiveness depending on the career and the jobs you have after graduating. On top of that, subsidized is even better because you don't accrue interest until after you're done with school. So that means that if you took $5,000, it's going to stay $5,000 a year later until you've graduated from that college or stopped going to school. Student loans can be a very good investment when you make a well-informed enrollment decision. This means that if you enroll at a college that would really serve and support you in reaching your goals and aspirations, then that loan that you take out can be a really great investment towards your future. However, if you don't make an informed choice about your college and you instead rush it, choose what others tell you to choose, or just go by name recognition or popularity, it may not be a good investment, especially if it leads to you taking out more money in loans or spending more time to complete your degree or not complete your degree at all. Private loans are the most risky to take out. So if you have to take them out to afford a college that you want to pursue or go to, it is even more crucial to make a smart choice that aligns with your future goals and objectives. Because remember, you're sinking in money, whether you recognize it or not, into this, right? And if you don't get what you need out of it, then you've lost that money worth value. All right, next one is students can sometimes get confused about work study and how it can be used as part of their financial planning for college. Work study are jobs that are designated to students who have completed the FAFSA application. So another reminder, you need to complete FAFSA to be even eligible or considered for work study. Once you've done that and FAFSA demonstrated the financial need to qualify for the federal work study program. The work study program is very popular and the funding available at each college will vary. With that in mind, the earlier you submit the FAFSA, the better your chance of qualifying and receiving work study in your award letter from colleges. If you are offered work study in your award letter, always accept them, just like all grants and scholarships offered. But remember, accepting work study on your award letter does not guarantee you these funds. You have to earn this amount by applying to work study job and working to receive these funds. So again, if on your work study or your award letter shows $5,000 in a work study and on your award letter, that does not mean you got $5,000. It means you have the ability, if you find an on-campus job, to earn $5,000 worth of work study money or funds that you can use to cover your college expenses. Working while going to college is a great way to help you pay a portion of your college expenses, but the key will always be making sure not to work so many hours that impacts your success in the classroom. As we discussed before, if you're planning to work to help cover your costs, we recommend working between 10 to 15 hours a week. Because we also recognize working more than 20 hours a week can be a potentially negative impact on your success in the classroom, as well as taking away opportunities like networking, study abroad, or internship placements that you may not be able to take advantage of due to having to work too many hours. And that can also then harm your opportunities for your future endeavors, right? All right, so we've covered a lot, but I hope you've all found that what we've shared useful. I'm gonna pass it back to Mare now so we can tell you how Decided can be useful to you.
Had a hard time unmuting there. Thank you so much, John. So we've explored the challenges that you, the students, and your families face. And there's also challenges for your advisors, your schools, and the college access organizations that you work with. Your advisors and counselors and mentors, the champions in your lives. There's also much that they have to cover to support these activities with students like you throughout the year, such as building college lists, helping you apply, and supporting and follow up with your applications and financial aid award letters. And that's why we see Decided as not just a tool in your toolkit as a student, but also for your advisors. Decided can help students to be more self-directed, answer your own questions, and build your college knowledge using the web-based app. And then your advisors can see the same information that you see and have that conversation with you. With Decided, students can track their four-year colleges in one place, track their award letters as they get them, upload them for real-time analysis, and complete your awards to make an informed choice. And then your advisors with an advisor dashboard account, they will know which students like you are engaged on Decided. They can see what you've saved to your account, if you've uploaded financial aid award letters, and support you in following up with colleges and advocating around your financial aid package. So we really encourage also advisors and counselors to consider how they want to use Decided with you and how they want to use the advisor dashboard to support and monitor your progress. So that's just a little note that if you have counselors or teachers that are looking for tools and you really like Decided, let them know that there's actually a tool for them too. So a few final takeaways and reminders before we head to Q&A. A few to keep in mind. First, complete the FAFSA application. If you qualify, complete all of the financial aid applications you qualify for. Every year, especially with regards to the FAFSA, high school seniors are missing out on billions of dollars in free money to help them pay for college. Every year, I meet a parent who says they're not going to apply to the FAFSA because they think they make too much money. Please apply. Do not take yourself out of the opportunity to avail of the different types of financial aid you might qualify for. You can't be considered for free money for college if you don't complete the FAFSA or the various financial aid applications you'll need to complete. If you're in California and you're undocumented, you may qualify for the California DREAM Act application, so be sure to talk to your counselor. And then if some colleges will also require another form called the CSS profile. So make sure that you really pay attention to the different forms you need to complete and ask the champions in your life the questions that you need to ask to make sure you get all of those milestones checked. Second, make sure to track your financial aid applications after you submit and make sure you complete any verification requests as soon as possible. John dove into verification a couple times. These requests are fairly common. They will come in through your financial aid portal and an email sent to you. So be sure to look out for those and again, complete them as soon as you can. Third, so we have here to keep a lookout for Decided, but Decided's out. You can actually start to use the app. So please go to decided.org and make sure to check it out. We have guides already available for you to explore. And you know, it's even though you're not getting your financial aid award letters yet, you could use Decided right now to start adding the colleges you know you need to track financial aid award letters for. So as you're starting to apply to colleges, if you don't have a place yet where you're tracking all the colleges you're applying to, add them on Decided. And that way, as you start to get your award letters, you'll have a way to track which of your colleges you've already received award letters for or not. Upload them and start to analyze them as you get them. And also use it as kind of a checklist to make sure that you have received all your awards. Because if you haven't, we highly encourage you advocate for yourself. Call the financial aid office, email them, get your award letter before you make a decision. Another just note with regards to scholarships, since John did mention it, Sometimes it's possible that you might apply for a scholarship. It could be a really big scholarship. I don't know, 20,000, 30,000. And we want to encourage you not to assume that that money is in the bank until it actually is in the bank. So you don't want to make your college choice based on the potential of one scholarship. You want to make sure you have a backup plan in case you don't get that scholarship. And that's the only way you could have reasonably paid to attend that college. So just make sure you apply to as many scholarships as possible and also look at all of your options. A few last just kind of frequently asked questions as we wait to see if there are any questions. So with Decided, like John shared earlier, it's like taking a picture of a check and depositing it into a mobile bank app. So you're not typing in anything from your award letter, you're taking a picture. It might take 2 or 3 pictures, and that works too. But it will actually provide an analysis and let you know if, based on those 3 markers we shared earlier, it's affordable, somewhat affordable, or not affordable. And Decided is secure for our students. We have privacy and security and your welfare as a high priority for us. And if there's any questions from your advisors or adults in your life, there's a privacy policy and terms and conditions, and we can always answer any questions. So with that, before we take it to questions, I'm just going to go ahead and put it on our last link right here, or slide right here, just in case you'd want to take a picture and sign up for our listserv so that you can learn more about Decided. All right, so I think it's probably time to answer a few questions. So John, I see one question so far, if you wouldn't mind taking this. So is it safe and recommended to use the IRS retrieval tool? Will it impact the calculation of the expected family contribution or the EFC? Any thoughts, John?
Yes. So taking that question, I'm going to assume when we're saying it's safe, is the information going to be safe when it's transferred within that line site? The IRS data retrieval tool, it is being done in partnership with the IRS as well as the federal government and higher ed to make this process a lot easier. In terms of being safe to share the information, again, I want to re-highlight, if a family decides to use the IRS data retrieval tool, none of the actual numbers are going to be transferred to the form. It will just say transfer from IRS. That's all it's going to say. But because of that, that also means that not everyone's eligible to use the IRS data retrieval tool. It's going to be only on certain tax returns, but it should capture a lot of families' tax returns in that process. And I would still recommend to use that because, again, it will help mitigate putting wrong numbers, because adding that extra 0 sometimes on accident, that's what can really mess up your EFC at certain moments. This kind of helps mitigate to make sure the accurate information is being put in. You can choose to manually put stuff in there, and that is your choice to do it so that you can visually see what you've inserted. As far as EFC being impacted, just because you use the IRS data retrieval tool, that in itself should not impact your EFC as long as you've had the correct information in there the whole time. The only thing that's going to impact your EFC is maybe if you put a wrong number in, put an extra 0, just re-clarify, making sure you're putting the right numbers and right information in there. Yes, hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, super thorough answer, John. And the other thing I would add to that, so we are in support of Cash for College workshops also across the state of California. And even as part of what we do in our workshops is highly promote the IRS data retrieval tool. It is really was designed to streamline this process for you. For those of you who can actually use that tool. And there will be some of you, depending on your circumstances, that won't be able to, like if your parents' social security is all zeros, you won't be able to use IRS data retrieval tool. If your parents file taxes jointly, but you need to enter your parent 1, parent 2 income. So we encourage you to take advantage of it if it's an option to you. It just, again, really streamlines. And if there's a concern about the fact that you don't see the information because it says data transferred from IRS, that data is the same information that is actually in your records for those taxes. So you should feel fairly, safe and secure to use that information instead of manually typing the information.
Yeah. And I can say it myself too, as a former student who had to do all this stuff, and I had to go ask my mom for all these documents and then sit there and then be like, am I messing up? Am I doing it correct? What's going on? So I know from a student perspective, this could make things a lot less stressful, a little bit easier, because then essentially once you are able to connect the data retrieval tool from your parent side, a lot of the burden gets taken off the student, especially if it's a student who has to do this, a lot of those things on their own.
Thank you so much for that, John. And I have posted last call for questions. I don't see any yet. But why, oh, okay, we do have another one. So, oh, good question. John, would you mind talking a little bit more about why someone would be selected for verification after submitting the FAFSA?
Yes. So there could be many reasons that you might get selected for verification. It doesn't mean you necessarily did anything wrong, but they just want to verify. So sometimes that is just to make sure they have the correct number of households put on your award letter. So because that'll determine your EFC and your contribution aspects of it. So without getting too detailed into it, it's really just dependent on the numbers they're putting. Sometimes they might flag it in case they see an odd number. So maybe you put an extra zero, you didn't recognize it, but the system flagged it because based on assumption of like the income and all the stuff you've already put in there, if you put it double zeros in the wrong spot, they may flag that to be like, hey, did you mean to do this? So it's also an opportunity for them to catch certain errors that might have happened. I think this is also what fueled trying to make this process more streamlined, because we've had that incident before happen, especially when you have young people being in a position where they have to enter these information and not recognizing the importance of getting it correct and doing the due diligence. That could easily happen throughout the process.
So helpful. Thank you so much, John. All right, folks, any other questions? Want to make sure we have the opportunity to answer anything top of mind for you before you submit that FAFSA or that scholarship app or whatever it is you have to submit. In the meantime, while we're waiting for maybe one more question, any other final thoughts or anything you want me to share about Decided? I can share my screen again, John.
One final thought is we didn't go in depth covering yet, but I want to mention again, especially during the time of where we're at right now with COVID, with finances being impacted greatly for many families. I want us to recognize that even if you did fill out FAFSA and it comes back and it shows, hey, like they're expecting our family to contribute a lot more money than we can, especially because maybe one of our parents lost a job or our finances are not the same. That's where we encourage you to actually go directly to your financial aid office and to make sure to take the next steps, which is to write an appeal. For those of you who want help with that process, there's a great organization that's already out there, FormSwift, that helps with the appeal process. And that is essentially an opportunity for you as a family to go to the college and appeal what they're giving you on the circumstance of our finances don't look the same as it was a previous year, right? So FAFSA takes into account to a year behind, but this current year may have impacted your finances greatly that it's unrealistic for the college to expect you to contribute that much. So make sure to utilize that and speak up more often and not just assume, well, that's the aid they're giving me and that's not enough, so we can't make it work.
Right. Thank you so much for that, John. And just to quickly show folks, we do have a guide, which I just put in the link. We do have a guide that talks about appeals. So when you go to Decided, if you go to students and click on guides, you can you'll see appeal right there as one of our first ones. But if you need to research anything, for example, scholarships, you can search for that as well. And then you'll find our scholarships guide. But if we search for appeal, there's our appeal guide. And just as John had shared, we do share with you how to use Swift Student, which is a fantastic resource. So we encourage you to use our guides, any of the information that we have there to support you through these questions. Okay, any other questions? Any other insights, John?
I think we covered quite a bit, so I'm just interested to see if there's more questions. I'm more than happy to answer them. Again, make sure to take the time, if you're a student or a parent, to really evaluate all your options. I can speak from my experience. I didn't do that. So I went to the college and I was like, yep, this is school I'm going to. But I was a young person, 17 at that age, didn't recognize the decisions can have impact past the semester, past the year. I can go on to 4 or 5 years because the school you go to, does it really align with your, career aspirations? Is it going to support you? Because that's really critical. And if it does, then maybe at certain times it might be worth taking out a little more loans to go to that school for your aspirations. And then maybe if there's a cheaper alternative that fits all of that, maybe that's a better option as well. So make sure you compare and really stay informed, because at the end of the day, it's you who gets to decide this, and you should be the one empowered to make those decisions because it impacts you directly, and not really us or the colleges as much as it will mean to you.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree with John more. And sometimes some of those things that we're considering when we're looking at colleges, we think about at the very beginning when we're still building our college lists. But it's important that we keep thinking about what's the right fit for us all the way up to college decision. You submit your college apps, I don't know, in the fall, anywhere between, November and January, depending on where you're applying. But you still have a couple months to really refine for yourself, like what matters to me. How much can I afford? How far do I want to live from home? How many years am I willing to go to college? All of these different factors. How diverse is it? Does it offer the major I'm looking for? Is all going to be important as far as this idea of college fit. So again, piggybacking off of what John just shared, you want to make sure that if you pursue and take on debt or whatever the case is, that it's really because it's a good fit for you, and it's based on what is the right, your decision-making process of what's important to you, those various factors. I'm still paying off loans. I don't need to tell you how old I am, but I'm still paying off loans. And it's worth it to me based on the education I received. It's totally up to everybody's comfort level and what's important to them. Any questions about loans, grants, scholarships, colleges? I think for the purposes of our video and for those who are watching, I'm going to go ahead and bring us to a close, and then we're going to stop the recording so that at that point we can answer any final questions that folks have. So just again, a huge thank you to everyone who joined us today. You'll find this recording on youtube.com/moneythink. Please check us out at decided.org. And we look forward to seeing you on the Decided app.